Okay. So it brings us, when we open Power BI Desktop, it brings us to this interface, which is not different from other Microsoft products that you would have been used to. Okay. We captured quite a lot of how you bring data in, the different data sources, plug that you have readily in Power BI. That was recorded yesterday. So we can watch that to catch up. Okay. But for today, I want us to move quick. Okay, because I thought yesterday we'll be able to really do a lot. So within the next, 30 minutes thereabout, let's try and speed up. So when we brought the data set in, because we need to make some corrections and edit, we chose an option called transform data, which brings you to a section of Power BI called Power Query. Now, let it be known to us that we also have Power Query in Excel. Okay, so maybe when we finish with this part, we will see how to use it in Excel as well. But as long as you know how to use Power Query in Power BI, it's not very different from what you have in Excel as well. So you get double for your money, basically. Okay. So we brought the table in and we've seen a few functions here, but we didn't want to, again, the interface you see here is not too different from what you will find with the Microsoft products: file, home, transform, and all of those. And under each one, you have sub buttons or sub functions, different functions. We're not going to dwell on all of the functions all at once because you would forget. So as we use each of the functions, you would see. And for those of us that can download, let's download and play around with it. Okay. When we brought the table in, the name wasn't this. We changed the name of the table from I think he just called it table 1 or so. And we came here to edit. If you click on there, you see that flashing line there, which means you can type. So you can change the name of your table or query. Query or table is what you call it when you are in Power Query. Or you can double click or right click and change it here as well. And we are advised to use a name that reflects what the table is about. In our trying to understand this data, we discovered that it's a record of customers, who have placed orders with a particular company. The company sells IT products, which are laptop monitors. It's just a record that was captured in the January of 2024. As we can see, it's quite a small data set. But I mean, it's good to start learning with small, because the same principles would apply to when you come to big data as well. Okay. One very important thing we said about yesterday was when you come to the right-hand side of your Power Query, under query settings, you see the properties, you see all properties, which just tells you what the table or the query is about. But very important is this applied steps. Normally with Microsoft products, you would have the undo button, which helps you to undo your last step if you want to remove the last step that you created. But we don't have undo button in Power Query. But we have steps that are recorded. So as you take each step, it records it on this right-hand side under applied steps. Okay. For example, the table was brought in from source. That's why this is source. So when you click on the side, it shows you this. When you actually click on the cursor, it gives you further information. It's just giving you the file path, the path to which this data this data set was gotten from. Okay, it's in my C drive. That's all my computer or file path. Under documents is where I saved it. And the name of the data set is data quality exercise. That's what I named it as. And it's open as an Excel workbook because it's an Excel workbook. Okay. So if for any reason I move this data set from documents and I decide to have it in desktop, then the Power BI will not be able to locate it anymore. Okay, so I have to come back here and point it in the direction of its new location so that my report doesn't break. It's very important that your table is connected to exactly where your data is. So if the source changes, make sure you come back and change that source to the correct one here. Okay. So it's telling us that we brought it from source. Then when we brought it from source, a navigation was opened. Okay, if I click on here, this was what it brought to sheet 1, is what it calls the table. Okay, this navigation table or dialog box was open to us. This is where we chose the table that we needed to bring in. Okay, you can choose as many tables that you need as possible. Okay, if it's available. And then immediately we brought it in. When we are here on navigation, let's observe what is happening with the table. Okay, your column headers became row 1 when you brought it in, when we brought it in. Okay, so customer ID, customer name, email, phone, and so on, they are supposed to be on the heading, not this column 1, column 2, column 3. Okay, the tool, Power Query, is able to see that because it did it automatically for us yesterday, and it applied the next step. It says promote headers. Okay, promote row 1 to the headers. That is, instead of row 1 being customer ID, make it to be where column 1 is. And that's what it did to the next part. And you can see now, customer ID is where it should be, column name is where it should be, and this table is where it should be. Okay. The next step says change type. Okay. Now, data type being correct is one of your very important notes to take when you are working with any of the tools, to be honest, be it SQL, Power BI, Excel, whatever. Okay, so in Power Query, your data types are these tiny ABC123, these tiny ones you see here. If I click on there, you see it opens up a whole load of different data types, and you can choose the one you believe is the right one. Again, the tool automatically does that for you. Okay, so because the next step, it has changed the data type. When it sees customer ID as numbers, it chose a whole number for it, 1, 2, 3. It saw that customer name is just text. It chose ABC for it, which is text. For email, it goes as text as well. When it came to phone numbers, it's choosing 1, 2, 3 because all it sees here is numbers. The city is all text, so it's choosing text. Other ID is seeing it as number, so it's choosing number for it. City, other ID, other dates, it's seeing other dates as date. So it's gone on to pick date. Now, I know the tool automatically does this step, but it's always good to go back into those steps and check just to be sure that it is what you desire, what you need to happen that's actually happened. Sometimes you might need to change some things because it's not done exactly what you need it to do, especially with data types. Because when we brought this in yesterday, it put a price as number, I believe, and it's not gonna mess about with our work, no, because numbers is still right, but just so it reflects that price, we are talking about money. Okay, so we decided to choose fixed decimal, and beside the fixed decimal, you can see $, which is what stands for currency. Decimal number will be that, whole number will be that. If it's percentage, it will be that. Date and time, if time is beside your date as well within the same column, it would be that. Dates, just date, time, date, time, zone, duration, text, true or false, Boolean in nature, binary, using local. We'll come to that, at some point. But it's good for you to know that it's very important that your tool, whichever tool you are using, is seeing your data with the right type. You see, you are indicating that this is text, or this is date, or this is number, or this is this type of number, and so on and so forth. Okay. Now to the actual work of the day. We said we are bringing this in so that we can correct those mistakes. Okay. Now, we don't need any correction in customer ID. Okay. Now, I don't believe we need any correction in name. If I'm wrong, please unmute and let me know, because I can't remember exactly everything that we picked out on the day. Okay. So I don't believe we have a problem with that. The first problem we have is with the email.
Sorry, excuse me.
Yes.
Can I take you back?
Yes.
We know we agreed to change the Anamula, the character on the U,
Okay, to ordinary, just
to
not.
whatever we have on the email because of the character on the U, special character.
No, I don't want us to change the name, because that is actually somebody's name. That's how it is. Okay. But what we can change is the email. Okay. Because the spelling in the Anamula here, then here is Anna dots. There's an E before the double L. That is the correction I think we should make with this. Let's remember that we can't necessarily change the underlying data. If the person's name is like that, by ethics of the work, it remains like that. Okay, again, because that's how that person's name is written. Okay, but in the email, it's not spelled correctly. Not just the special character now. We can decide not to put the special character in the email, but we need for it not to have this extra E that is before the double L. Okay. Does that make sense, Mark?
Sorry, yes.
Auntie Debbie.
Yes.
Sorry, my hand has been up, but yeah. So I was going to say that if we are looking at correcting, as a matter of fact, I think maybe it's for clarity, maybe we can just, if by choice we choose to change the email, fine, but the email might possibly not even be flagged as a data quality issue, given that it's an email, right? And yes, email can come up as anything. Nothing shows or nothing clearly states that, oh, this is the email. So this might just be an assumption, because as a matter of fact, it can be Anna, MUY, whatever, so long as it's an email. And a major quality issue might be maybe if the we have a dot after the at, or something like that is irregular. But looking at the email like that, I think it's okay for us to even say that the email can be correct, unless maybe we have a reason to believe that, okay, maybe there is a standard, there is a standard for this particular sort of email, something like that, if that makes sense.
It does. It makes sense. It makes I see where you are coming from with that. The only reason we flag that is we are looking at consistency. Okay. For most of, if not almost all of the emails we have here, the format that they have used, John Smith, John.Smith, Sarah Ahmed, Sarah.Ahmed. Then it came to Michael Lee, Emily. Okay. That flags in the case of us learning now, if it's at work, you can flag it. If they decide to not do anything about it, it doesn't change anything. As long as two people are not sharing the same email, that work will be fine. Okay. But for the purpose of learning, this is an inconsistency issue. Why are we having first name dot surname and then at email.com for most of it, and the others are somehow? Okay, so that's why we are picking those, and because it's a data quality exercise as well. Okay, and
it makes sense.
inconsistency, yes, and data inconsistencies is part of data quality issues.
Yeah,
Okay. But
makes...
at work, you can choose to flag it and then they come back to you and say, okay, don't worry about it. And you shouldn't worry about it because again, it's email. Okay. But if I'm at work and my name is Anna Müller and they are making my email like this, I will want for them to correct it just for consistency. Okay, purpose. Yeah. So the first one here, Michael Lee, I would want, instead of M. Lee, I would want that to be Michael.Lee, like the rest. Okay. So now, how do we change this? Luckily for us, Power Query makes cleaning data very easy. Okay. One of the functions in Power Query is you can replace values. Okay, you can replace a value. Okay. If I right click this, let me see. Yes. So I just clicked on the email on the top, on the header there, and I'm right clicking to see all the options that I've got. So there's copy, which means I want to copy this particular column. Remove, which means I want to remove this particular column. Remove other columns, which means I want this left alone and every other column removed. Okay. Actually, let me display them because the more we see how these things work, the more it will stay with us. Okay, copy is I copy it and I'm going to paste it somewhere. Okay, that's just what that is. I won't show pasting of that because I'll need to open somewhere else. Okay.
Good evening, ma. Sorry to cut you short. Please, can you check the chat box, ma?
Okay. Because I'm sharing, I'm not seeing. Okay. Please, ma, can we have a room for the PM team? Right. Should I make you co-host so that you would? Let me make you co-host so that you
Yes,
can.
please. Thank you, ma.
You can do that part. Okay. Yes, you are co-host now. All right. So I'm right-clicking again. If I say remove this column, it removes that column and it adds the extra step of what I've just done, you see. And see, it's putting the formula there, what is done on the formula bar. Table.remove columns is the function or formula that it has used, you know. It's saying that we use table.remove column on the last step, change type. The previous step before that was change type. On the previous step, and we removed email. Okay, that's how that works. But I don't want to remove email, so I'm going to undo that last step to restore this back. Okay, then remove other columns. Okay, I want this particular column retained, every other column removed. Again, if I do that, that's exactly what we are going to get. Okay, so it's saying that it's use table.select column, select this column on the previous step, and it's only email that's standing. Okay, but that's not what we want to achieve. I just wanted to show us that. Okay, but where we're actually going to, you will enjoy Power BI most if you can download it and play around with it and discover, you know, different ways of doing the same things, you know, on your own by yourself, not just relying on the class teaching. Okay, now we keep going down. There's quite a few functions that you will be seeing us use, you know, not just on this project, maybe on other projects as well. And we want to replace value. So you can choose to replace value from here. That is one option. Let me hide this. You can also choose to replace value from, I believe, from transform. Let's see if it's under transform. Yes, so under transform, while I'm already picking this column, you can replace value. Let's look at that. You can either replace values or you can replace errors. If there are errors that you have a value in mind to replace, okay? That's a second way of doing it. Now, what I'm used to doing, what I'm very used to doing is I click on that particular value that I want to replace. Then I right click When I right click, there are a few options that it brings. And one of them is replace value. I want to replace these values. It's just that saved me the headache of typing twice. So it's already picked what I want to replace. And I want to replace it to be exactly like the rest, which that would now be Michael dot Lee at email.com. Okay. So there's an advanced option here, but I'm not going to use it. Okay. I don't really use that. You can, check out how that works and use it as well. And I will okay that. And immediately we have michael.lee at email.com. And also we have that step written here, added here for us. Now, if I go into the clock wheel, it would open up back this. So if there's any amendment I want to make here, I can always click on each of the clock wheels and make an amendment. If I want to remove each of these steps, I can always remove each of the steps. So that is done. So now the beauty of what we've done now is if for any reason more data set is added to the source and that same mistake happens, they still bring Emily. Each time we refresh, the fact that this machine is an automation machine, you won't need to always come here to change Lee to Michael.Lee. It will just automatically pick it for you. So all things being equal, the first time is when you do all the hard work. After that, if nothing changes with the data structure or the data source, then you just refresh, automatically, and you don't need to touch that report, except you are amending it for any other purpose. And if we still look down, there is David.O'Brien, which doesn't have email, it doesn't have .com. Okay, so we can replace that as well. I'm just gonna copy this so that I don't have to then add .com to the back of it. And that corrects that for us. And I believe, okay, and we said to correct the name, remove that extra E from this one as well. Again, it's just for consistency. I'm going to just copy. Sabisola, have you been able to open the room? And
no, ma'am.
What happened?
Because I was on my phone. I guess that's the reason. I could not open a breakout room.
Okay,
I'm logged in now with my computer. But I'm not an host on the computer.
Okay, so let me give you the host right back. So, okay. All right, you are now.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome, sis. Okay. So I believe keep looking, one of your qualities at being attentive to detail. So it can be quite hard to pick certain errors, okay, like extra spaces. So again, a very good practice is to trim and clean your data as you go. So just to ensure, I believe there isn't anything like that with this because none of them is repeated when you look through the drop down. If any of them is repeated, then you will need to trim because there's an extra space either from the beginning or in the middle or at the end of one of the values. Okay. Now we made something up. We have a null value here. Okay. So people need to be assigned. Okay. I think I can close this. That should not disturb your work. Okay. We said to fill this with random numbers, only that we can see that each one of these 4 numbers starts with 7, 1. Okay. and there is maybe 10 characters, okay? So we agreed, normally you won't just choose any phone number for anyone. The good practice or the normal thing you would do is to go and ask and fish out what that person's number is. Michael Lee again, that's whose phone number is missing, okay? So now this is not the best way to do this part, okay? Because I'm about to change null into one particular number. The implication of that is that any null value that comes in the future would automatically get that number that I'm going to change into. So that, which means the solution I want you to use now is not right. I can't change null to a number now. Okay, so as you are doing your work, you are thinking of the future as well. Okay, like, does this solution help me in the future? Am I creating extra problem for myself when situation changes? Okay, if I change this null and I decide, okay, replace null value, okay, and I choose 711 71, and I randomly just put all the whatever I want to put, however many, okay. For this person, okay, I put a dot there. Now for this person, that may be their phone number. I found it out and I replaced the null because currently it's working for me. It's just one value that is null. But a time would come when there'll be so many other null values, other people whose phone numbers will not be added. What happens is, what I've done now is I've changed, as every other null value comes, they will just be taken on 7.111, 7.111, and that will not be right, okay? So that step is completely not the best one to use to solve this problem, okay? Now, I think I would introduce us to something else, how you can, what I would do, okay, if I was in this kind of situation, at work. But we'll come back to that. I think I will do that as the last thing for today, okay? Now, under city, again, we have a null for Tom White. We don't know where Tom White comes from, okay? We also have London with capital letter and London with small letter, okay? Again, that is inconsistency and missing value within the same column, okay? I believe the rest are fine. We don't have any problem, with the rest, just the null and the two Londons needing to be, again, if I decide to say for Tom Lee, it is null, and I just want to change null value like I have done for the solution I've profiled here, again, that would be wrong, because if then they employ Deborah, and Deborah is from Luton, and Luton city is null for Deborah at some point, that would just automatically pick whatever I give Tom, because what I am basically saying is any value that is null just changes to this, okay? So the problem with that kind of solution here is exactly the same problem with that kind of solution here as well. If we were in Excel, we will just quickly type, and that solves it. Sometimes, again, that is the beauty of simplicity in the tools, that we use, okay? So that is all fine here. If there was a problem with the date, we would see error flagged up here. But again, that doesn't stop you from checking and from looking. Order ID is fine, okay? It's all unique values for this order ID. So that's the primary key there, because it's an orders table as well. With the products are fine. There is no value that is repeated within this box. So which means we don't need to trim or clean any of them. Quantity looks fine. Okay, not really. We have quantity that is -1. This, I believe, is a typo. Okay, the person who just wants to type 1 and they type -1. So I'm working with that assumption. Again, it's always best to check some solutions are so glaring, like, okay, that's what it should be now, okay? But again, you just never know. There could be some business logic in real life situation now behind that minus, okay? Is it that instead of coming to buy, they returned, they returned an item, and that's why we are having a negative, to it? Is that how we do? Is that how we store our data? It would be nice to understand what that is. But right now, let's work with the assumption that this person wants to put +1, and that's why they put -1, and we can change that to just 1, And again, like I said, in your documentation, we talk about how you document your data analysis process, okay? It's always good to document your process, because sometimes you forget. Maybe after some months, you built a report, something happened, it comes back to your desk, and you can't remember exactly what you were thinking when you profiled that solution. But had it been that it was documented, you can easily refer to your document and say, okay, this is what I did here, this is what I did here. Okay, so documenting your process is very important. We don't always do it because we just want to rush and get the work done. But it's important that we do it. Okay. I was also gonna say something else, but that escaped me. Okay, part of me documenting my process is that there was a -1, and I'm working with the assumption that it's a typo, and I've changed it to 1. That would be glaring, to anyone. And all the corrections that have been made here, they should be documented. Don't forget that even the machine is documenting it for you anyway, okay? Most of these steps, to make it clearer, you see, saying change type, replace value, you can actually rename them to reflect exactly what was done, okay? For example, the value we changed here was for Michael Lee. Okay, we changed M. Lee to Michael.Lee. Okay, just so that is reflected, because replace value can be any value. You can right click and rename that step, and just put maybe M. Lee replaced, something like that, just to remind you that it was the step where you replaced M. Lee, and it's not just replace value. That's a nice thing to do. Again, that's a way of you documenting what you have done. If you don't have the time to do a proper documentation, okay? This step, it was email.com that was done here for David O'Brien. You can just put email or email.com, something that will reflect easily that you just corrected email.com, or you can make it longer from email to email.com, something like that, correct, or correction on email, whatever works for you. You can use, that function. In the next 2 minutes, let's see this phone number. Okay, the best way to condition the change we want to make only for Michael Lee. Okay, the best way is to use the conditional column. Like, it's just like your if statement that you would normally do in Excel. Okay, use the if statement to say that if customer name is Michael Lee, then put this phone number there. If not, then bring the rest of the phone number. There are 2 ways that you can do that, but let's use the simplest way to achieve that. Okay, so what else is there? Again, if name is Tom White, again, that's risky. If another Tom White comes another time and that happens again, so you have to keep working at these things. Maybe we should use, instead of name, we should use email. Emails are very unique and very specific. Okay, only because Michael Lee, 2 Michael or 3 Michael Lees, 4 Michael Lees can come later. How does that help the solution? So you see how you are thinking on your toes as you are doing your work. And that is why we're saying that you have to have analytical or creative thinking skills, think outside of the box and within the box as well. It's me that's saying, let's use this. I'm also the one saying, okay, this is the downfall of that solution. And that's how it is in the real life situation. Okay. So rather than use name, I will use email again, because email is unique. If any other Michael Lee comes at other time, they won't be given exactly this email. They will confirm their email in a certain way, for them. And that is where Mr. Isaac well, that's what he was pointing out, when he said about emails doesn't really matter. That is correct. Okay, so let's quickly do this conditional statement to see, okay, that I click on conditional statement, okay, and I went to add column for me to click on that. Let me not do it here. I'll do it here, the next step, okay. One of the buttons we have is home, transform, and add column. The difference between transform and add column we'll talk about tomorrow. We don't have time tonight, and I want us to do this part very quickly. Okay, so under add column means whatever solution it brings is going to make it as an additional column, as an added column. If you follow my cursor down here, we have 10 columns and 12 rows, at the moment. Okay, so if we go on conditional column, and I'm saying that add a conditional column that is computed from other columns or values. Okay, new column name, let's leave it as custom for now. So this is an easy way to do if statement. So I'm going to say that, and this I can move around just so it helps me. I'm going to say that if email, so it started with if for me. If the column name email, well, there's different things I can do here. I can say is equal to and type the exactly what is here. It has to be exactly it. I can say begins with Michael.Lee, if that works for me. Okay. But to tighten it up well, and other options here that may work, I will say equals, because then it exactly picks exactly what I needed to pick. And I type there. Normally, I would have copied this before I open this, okay, just to make my life easier. But that's fine. Equals Michael.Lee at email.com. Then, what output do I want? If the value, so if email equals michael.lee at email.com, then let's make up it's a 10 digits number, I believe, which must start with 71. And I can put 1111 22 and then 3 threes. Just something to make sure that 22 is what okay, actually that's fine. As long as it's unique to it, it's fine. Let's see. Add plus. So if email equals michael.lee, then bring this. Else, if not, just bring the phone numbers. So I'll click on here. Okay, there's two options here. You can enter value like I entered value here, or you can select a column. So I'm selecting the phone column. Okay, and I'll say just bring the phone column. Okay, so it reads like this. If email equals michael.lee@email.com, then put this, input this number. Else, bring the phone number. Okay, if there are more things I want to achieve here, and there are more actually that I would love to achieve, like the other ones that we saw. Okay, well, let's do one first so that we are not overflogging it. Okay, I click on OK on that, you see, and there's a problem with what I have. I think I added too many numbers. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, instead of me doing that, there is a function that actually checks the length, the length of how many characters are there. So if I go on transform and look for length, I believe, lowercase, uppercase, stream, add, prefix, no, extract, under extract, length. Okay, it's under transform extract. It's also under add column. Okay, you see how you have to be fishing these things out until you get used to where they are. Okay, so if I click on length, okay, so each of them is 10 in number, except the one I entered, which is 12. Okay, that's why it appeared like that. Okay, so I'm going to correct myself and remove 2 of that. So I'll go back into the formula, click that plug wheel, and maybe remove 2 ones. Okay, okay, that. Okay, you see that appears better now. And if we look at the calculated length, it's all 10. Okay, so I'm going to remove that last step because I just used it to check. Okay, so now I've succeeded in ensuring that my phone column is complete. Okay, what I will then do with that is I will change. I'm going to delete this. I'm just copying the title. Okay, because we don't need 2 columns for phone. If I drag this one that we just created, if I drag it here beside the first phone, okay, so problem has been solved. We can actually change the data type to number as well, whole number. Okay, so I'm going to remove this phone, remove it, and change this to phone, and that solves that particular problem. Okay, our time is far gone. Okay, by tomorrow, if you can use the same method for those that are working on it to correct the same conditional statement method to correct the null here and also the null in price. You can impute any price of your liking there. I think those are the major problems we have to correct. The small letter London, I can decide to just use this method or another method. Okay, just type, capital letter London, and then that solves that problem. Or I can just say, let me come back to the first step. I can just decide to go into transform, and under format, I can say capitalize each word. So under format, you can use lowercase all through, you can use uppercase all through, or you can use capitalize each word. Okay, insert the step, and that will change the small letter, anything starting with small letter. Okay, in fact, that's a better option. You know why? Because then any other value that is being brought forward in the future with a small letter starting it, that option of solving the problem automatically solves it. The first option I did would only be looking for London with small letter to correct. But the option of capitalize each word will look for any word at all that is starting small letter, and it would correct it, you see. So again, it's more the power of your solution is when you think futuristically with it as you solve. Okay, because then what will happen with the report is it will get flagged. You'll be getting error with every refresh if we don't use the right solution. A solution might appear good at the moment, but would it hold for the future? So you will need to think that through as you work. This is where we're going to stop tonight because a class is starting soon, and I'm going to stop recording. Is there any question?